So let's set the scene. Our story begins right in the heart of the powerful Persian Empire, where a young Jewish orphan gets swept up in a series of events that will put her right at the very center of power.
Okay, so you've got this fascinating split, right? On one side, she is Hadassah. She's a Jewish orphan raised by her older cousin Mordecai. But on the other side, she becomes Esther, the stunning new queen of Persia, chosen by the king himself. And the number one rule of her new life? Her true identity, her heritage, it has to remain a complete and total secret.
And this wasn't just a friendly suggestion. It was a direct order from her guardian, Mordecai. He knew exactly how dangerous their situation was. So this hidden identity, well, it was a heavy burden to carry. But as we'll see, it would also become her most powerful weapon.
But while Esther is getting used to her new life in the palace, a dark shadow is rising inside the court. It's a threat not just to her, but to every single one of her people.
So, enter Haman, the king's right-hand man. He's arrogant, he's powerful, and he demands that everyone bow down to him. But Mordecai refuses. He reserves that kind of honor for God alone. Well, this one act of defiance lights a fire of rage in Haman that's so huge, his personal grudge just explodes into a monstrous plot to wipe out every Jew in the entire empire.
I mean, those words are just chilling. There's no ambiguity there. The decree is sealed with the king's own ring, which makes it the law of the land. It can't be taken back. A date is even set by casting lots, called pur, for the mass slaughter of every Jewish man, woman, and child. The trap has been set.
So, with this death sentence hanging over her entire people, the story swings right back to the one person who just might be able to stop it. This is Esther's moment. She has to decide if she's going to stay safe in the palace or step onto the front lines of a spiritual and political war. Mordecai manages to get a message to Esther, begging her to go before the king and plead for their people. But you have to understand, this is basically a death sentence. Anyone, and I mean anyone, who approached the king uninvited could be killed on the spot. Esther is understandably terrified, but the next words Mordecai sends her will change everything. This right here is the heart of the entire story. Mordecai is forcing her to look at her life in a totally new way. He's asking, what if this isn't all just an accident? What if you being an orphan, and you becoming queen, and you hiding your identity, what if it was all leading up to this one single critical moment?
And her response, it's just brilliant. It's not impulsive. First, she calls for spiritual backup, a 3-day fast for all the Jews in the city. This isn't just about politics, it's an act of deep faith. Only then does she commit to that life-threatening approach to the king, making that famous declaration, "If I perish, I perish." Her fear has been transformed into this unshakable resolve.
All right, so she's made her choice, and now she pulls off one of the most incredible, high-stakes political chess moves you will ever hear about. Her plan wasn't a desperate emotional plea. No, it was a perfectly orchestrated series of 2 banquets.
So she approaches the king, and miraculously, he holds out his golden scepter, which means her life is spared. But here's where she's so smart. When he asks what she wants, she doesn't blurt out the whole story. Instead, she invites him and her sworn enemy, Haman, to a private banquet. It's a masterstroke. It makes the king super curious, and it massively inflates Haman's ego, making him feel completely invincible.
And get this, even at the first banquet, she delays again, inviting them both to a second banquet the following day. You can just imagine the king at this point, right? The suspense is killing him. By now, he's probably willing to give her just about anything she asks for. The stage is now perfectly set for the final showdown.
So at that second banquet, with the king on the edge of his seat, she finally plays her hand. She reveals that she herself is Jewish and exposes the evil plot to annihilate her people. When the shocked king demands to know who would dare do such a thing, she points right at the other guest and declares, "The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman."
Well, the king is furious, and in this moment of just perfect poetic justice, he finds out that Haman had just built a 75-foot gallows with the specific intention of hanging Mordecai on it. So the king orders Haman to be executed on that very structure. The villain is literally destroyed by the instrument of his own evil plan.
Okay, so Haman's out of the picture, but the problem is his evil decree is still the law of the land, so the story isn't quite over. Now, Esther and Mordecai have to figure out how to undo the damage and save their people for good. Now, a Persian law couldn't be revoked, so the king does the next best thing. He issues a brand new decree that gives the Jewish people the right to arm themselves and to fight back against anyone who tried to harm them. So on the very day that was supposed to be their destruction, they instead win a great victory.
And to make sure that this unbelievable turnaround is never, ever forgotten, the Festival of Purim is created. It's actually named for the pur. Remember those lots that Haman cast for their destruction? Now, it's a day of joy, celebrating how a day of certain death was miraculously flipped into a day of deliverance.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. You know, Esther didn't wake up one day knowing she was going to be a hero. She was an orphan at a foreign land, just trying to get by. It really makes you wonder, in our own ordinary lives, in our own unique situations, what great purpose might we be positioned for, right here and right now?